Over time, I've heard a lot of Dogman encounters. And the only reason why I even listened to them is because I was trying to figure out what I saw myself when I was 12 years old. Let me tell you my story real quick. When I was 12 years old, the walk from my house to my school was about 1.5 miles. And to be clear with you, I didn't live in the country. I lived in the suburbs of Texas. And the craziest thing about my encounter is it didn't happen in the woods. And I'll never forget, I was on my way home from school. I remember having my yellow backpack, 12 years old, and I'm just walking. And this is way before we had the technology up to date. There were no cell phones back then. And looking back on that time period now, as a parent, I don't know how my parents dealt with the fact that they didn't know where their kid was. But back to the story. I'm walking back from school on my way home, and there's this bridge that spans across a ravine. And I'm not talking about like a footpath bridge. I'm talking about a car bridge where cars drive over a ravine. Well, I'm walking over the bridge as I do every morning and every evening when I hear a noise down in the ravine. And to me, it sounded like someone talking, like someone had just said, hide. But initially I wrote it off because at the same time I was hearing that, a car was passing by. So I just keep walking. I get about 10 steps further and I hear it again, hide. And I'm not hearing this inside of my head. I'm hearing it come from down in the ravine below the bridge. So I stop, place both hands on the rail, lean over and look. That's when I see what looks like a furry black tail darting under the bridge. Now pause right here in the story and let me say this. I am 12 years old. I'm not an adult. I have no clue that Dogman, Bigfoot, none of that stuff exists. Now, had I watched horror movies as a kid? Yes. Could that play a factor into what happened next? I seriously doubt it, because even though I was a kid, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't insane. I had no mental health issues. I was of sound body and sound mind. So when I see that tail go under the bridge and disappear, I turn, check both sides of the street, run across and go to the other side of the bridge. And when I get there and look down, there is a giant black wolf shooting. I mean, there was a giant black wolf with a long tail running full speed down that ravine. And when I say running, it's running on 2 legs, and it's not running slow at all. It is lightning fast how this thing is moving. Now pause right here and let me answer this logical question for everybody. You're going to sit there and say to me, first of all, kid, you don't know what the hell you were talking about. You was just a kid. Well, let me explain it all to you. As I walk across that bridge, put my hands on the rail and lean over and look down, it's got his head turned up and looking up at me. And that is a giant black wolf. It looks me dead in my eyes and takes off running. Now, I don't know if you can remember being 12 years old and being afraid and what it did to you, but I can definitely tell you what that did to me. It took off running in its direction, and I took off running in my direction, headed home. And I ran that entire way home, barging into the door, going straight upstairs and locking my room because my parents would not get home for another 3 hours. When I tell you that was the most tumultuous 3 hours of my life, it really was. Every thought, every noise, everything brought me back to that moment where I saw it looking up at me. Now, lucky for me, I never saw it again after that day, but I still had to cross that bridge every morning and every evening.